I have a good one. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It seems like Elijah thinks he needs to go to the Cloverdale Seventh-day Adventist Church, so he's requested his membership be transferred to the Cloverdale Adventist Church in Boise. So do I have a motion to make that happen? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? No, I guess.
We're not happy about it.
Oh, I guess Elijah, that means you get to go to Cloverdale. Chavez family being here.
If we voted no, would that make them stay here?
All right. It's great to be back in Mountain Home and say hi to everybody. So we appreciate the invite. The next song we'll sing is number 108, Amazing Grace.
Our God and Father in heaven, we thank you for the Sabbath day. We thank you for everyone gathered here today. We ask for your presence to be here with us. Because you have promised, where two are gathered in our name, you are here in our midst. We claim that promise today. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Please remain standing for the opening hymn. It's number 7. The Lord in Zion reigns.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now time for church family time. And I want to start off with the fact that Lisa, Martha, Kathleen Dole's daughter, is out of intensive care. And if she continues to improve, she should be able to be released from the hospital tomorrow. But, all right, Ethan, what's this stuff called? Yeah, that fancy word. And, but she's improving, and like I said, so they figured if she continues, she'll be able to go home probably Sunday. But it'll be a long recovery because it is a difficult thing to deal with. The other thing is, it's been 2 years since I had an open heart surgery. And by the grace of God and all the prayers that went through for me, I'm alive and stand here today to do this. So those are my praises. Are there any other praises this morning?
Is today your anniversary for that, or?
Yeah, today would have been my 5th day in coma tomorrow. My 4th day in coma tomorrow, my 5th day in coma, and then after that, then I'll wake up and find out I'm here having fun. I've been sleeping and enjoying myself.
Much needed rest.
Yes, a much needed rest. I guess that's what's about. Anyway, any praises? Glenna?
I am glad all the flowers are clinging, but I need prayers for the next week.
I'll just pray for the flowers.
I want to pray for that van of hers.
Alex? Oh. Yes?
That we got her safely and not sick
You're not sick anymore. That's good.
well, I heard that was wrong with work this week, so praise the Lord.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Yes? Yes, ma'am.
I'm very thankful for people who are willing to come at the last minute and help us with water in the classroom and in the fellowship hall. And I appreciated Byron coming out and doing all of that. And Andy for fixing the problem. And the carpets are dry, so.
Amen. Any other? Yes? Bob?
I
praise and thank God because my ribs was totally healed. And at the time that I'm on pain, God was really sending His holy angels to help me working. Yes, praise God.
Any other praises? Yes, Elijah.
I just praise God for all the years that I've been a member here at this church. And I just thank God and all the church members here for being having such a great church family in our
Yes, ma'am.
You know, John had trouble this week, and we had pretty much our property got flooded in certain areas, and it was just like God just opened the way to figure out what to do and how to deal with it. And we had prayed about the flood too, and it just felt like last night there was a breeze that came, and then the water froze, and then this morning when I got up, one area of flooding was completely gone. And I was just, it felt like it was more than just the efforts that we had made, but it felt like God just came in and just worked a miracle.
Praise the Lord. Any other prayer? A prayer request, no, I should say. No other prayer. Lauren.
Prayer request, all of the grandkids get well.
Amen.
They all got sick. And safe travels for all those traveling.
Yeah, because you and Andy are heading to Mexico.
To rest up, so we don't get sick.
Again.
Yes, Alex.
Prayer for all those flood victims out there. These are all here not home.
Yeah. Tom.
Prayer request for the wife of one man after he just discovered she got breast cancer.
Any others? No more? For those who are able, shall we sing our prayer song as we know the prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for a very beautiful Sabbath day you bless us with. It is awesome to see the sunshine. We haven't seen it very much for a long time. And the full moon last night was just amazing to see, Lord, and we thank you for that. We thank you for all the beauty around us that is there, if we just open our eyes to see. We thank you for your love that for each and every one of us, every man, woman, and child upon the face of this earth you love, and we thank you for it. We thank you for your presence in this church this morning as we worship you on your Sabbath day, and we thank you for it. Lord, we have many praises. You know each and every one of them. You know the thoughts, the hearts and minds of each one of us as we think about all the praises, all the miracles that have occurred in our lives. And we thank you for them, Lord. And Lord, we have prayer requests. You know people who are sick. And there for a while, like on Lisa, we weren't sure she'd be coming out of the hospital. But we thank you that she is improving. And if she continues to improve the rate she's going, she will be out of the hospital Sunday or possibly Monday. But we thank you for that, Lord. We thank you for the safe travels of people that have been traveling to Tri-Cities to be with Elisa and Walla Walla, and just all the other travels that are occurring, Lord. We thank you for the safe travels there. And we have people traveling, Lord, in the next couple of days, going to other places. And we ask your blessing upon them. Be with Andy and Lauren as they go to Mexico. Give them a fun time with family and friends that are going down there with. Time to relax before farming season goes into full swing. show you and your love to us, and we thank you for it. Again, Lord, I lift up all the prayer requests, you know each and every one of them, and you know the sound requests. We have a special request. A lens is missing from a young lady's eye at the moment. Somewhere in the hallway or whatever, help us find it. And your will is always your will be done. Bless us through the rest of this service, Lord. Be with Steve as he gives his words to us. Open our hearts and minds to hear your love. In thy precious Son's name.
Hey, Byron, I'm yes, on your prayer, I missed something. Did somebody lose their contact lens?
Yeah.
Here?
You didn't find it yet?
It was stuck in my eye.
Okay, you got
All right.
it. Praise the Lord. See?
Answer the prayer.
All right, thank you, Lord.
That was 3 minutes.
Lord has a sense of humor too. Okay, it's time for the children's story. Alma Blue has a children's story this morning.
Right.
Ryan has a children's story this morning. Okay, the kids go to the back of the church and take a little basket and bring forward the funds for the school downstairs.
I mean, Adam, I'm taller than you. Just kidding.
Good morning, kids. Who likes to fight with their siblings? When I was little, probably your age, my dad used to make me and my brother go and move hand lines in the field. And that would result in he'd be kicking me on the ground. It was the best time ever. I remember laughing at him when he wrecked his four-wheeler, and he was gasping for air. I thought he was going to die. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. My uncle was yelling at me over it. Oh, it was amazing. And then I remember we used to get in fights, and I couldn't beat him up. He was very strong, but I was very cunning. And I could make him cry by teasing him, and I wouldn't stop. And now I have little boys that fight. And we have one boy here because they were fighting, so I brought one to church and one stayed home. But I just want to tell you guys, there's hope. My brother was down a week ago, and we were laughing together. We weren't fighting. We were chuckling about times when we went to camp and moving pipe. So even when you fight like cats and dogs, it'll turn out. You'll be pals in the end. Okay? Jesus sends you your brothers and sisters to be companions later in life, so don't ruin that relationship. Okay? You can go back to your seats.
That's what brothers and sisters do.
Yeah, sure.
One man.
Yes. You find your brothers do. I have,
You had about 20 of them.
I only had one sister. She lucked out. Anyway, it's now time for our offering this week. Our offering is for the world budget. Adventist Television Ministries comprised of several ministries, including Breath of Life, which preaches the gospel in context of the three angels' message found in Revelation 14. The Spanish channel of Seventh-day Adventist Church, Hope Channel, which offers programs on holistic Christian living, and It Is Written, which hit the airwaves on 13 stations in the spring of 1956. And then goes on from there, Faith for the Day and others. All these reach out to the world about the love of Jesus for each and every person. For our ushers, please come forward.
Please rise. You may be seated. And Ryan Chavez has a scripture for us this morning.
Today's scripture will be
Deuteronomy 29:29.
The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow all the words of His law.
And there's one more scripture this morning. It's Amos 3:7.
Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing His plan to His servants, the prophets.
Thank you.
Amen.
At this time, Steve has our service.
I'm so thankful to be here this morning in Mountain Home. And I'm also thankful that my family is here with me today. My wife, Love, my children, my grown children, Vanessa, Caleb, Elijah, my youngest daughter, Shekinah, and my grandchildren, Giriana, Acacia, and Orion. So let's just bow our heads for a minute and ask the Lord to be with us as we open God's Word. My God and Father in heaven, I am truly nothing without you. And I praise your name today for calling me out of darkness in this world and giving us the wonderful messages, wonderful promises that you've given us in your Word. As we open your Word this morning, Lord, we ask you to open our eyes that we might behold wondrous things out of your law. And give us words and thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give us an expected end. Thank you and praise you for this promise in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I've always been attracted to reading and studying God's Word. And you know, as a Seventh-day Adventist, I've really always been attracted to reading the book of Revelation. But you know, even before I became a Seventh-day Adventist, I always enjoyed reading the Bible. And one of the chapters, one of the books that I enjoyed reading, besides Revelation, was Genesis. In fact, the first sermon I think I ever preached when I was still in college was from Genesis. It was Genesis chapter 6, verses 8 and 9. And I still remember the title of my sermon was Why Noah Found Grace in the Eyes of the Lord. When I returned here, after many, many years, I returned here from Thailand in 2015. I had been working, my wife and I had been working, she'd been helping me, working on a book that I was writing, again, from Genesis. A book that I titled The Quest for Methuselah's Memoirs. It's a fictional account, but it's based on Bible verses, particularly from Genesis, most of them from Genesis. And it's an account of a businessman who almost, but didn't quite, make it to the ark. So it's, like I said, it's the way my mind works sometimes, and I thought, well, what about all the people that didn't make it to the ark? You know, what happened to all them? I mean, we know that they were destroyed in the flood, but I wonder sometimes, you know, what happened in their lives that made them not make that decision. And so I wrote the book, and I just finished it a couple of years ago here. It's not a big bestseller. You can get it on Amazon, but it's not a big seller. I don't get a lot of, you know, royalty from that, but I'm going to use part of it later on. I've got a couple of friends. I'm glad that my hecklers are here. Andy and Ryan are both here. They're going to play a part, and then John is going to play the part of Noah. And I'm going to use part of that book, the verses, the chapters, about three pages of that book, and we're going to do that skit. I'll be the narrator. But anyway, back in October when Pastor Tom first asked me to preach here at Mountain Home, I had just received a synopsis from a pastor friend of mine in Arizona who had been working on a sermon that was based on the five, he says there are five times, prophetic times, starting with the Bible and going on into the last days, our days. And he says there are 5 time periods. And those time periods, the way he says, those things are 2 things that happen when these time periods are outlined in the Bible. Now, most of us know we focus as Adventists, we focus on the 70 weeks, we focus on the 2,300 days, ended in 1843, 1844 area. But he says there's five time periods, and he kind of a little bit outlines those in his synopsis of this Bible, this sermon that he was going to preach. So I kind of looked at that and I thought, wow, I don't want to preach that because that's a long sermon. And they probably cut me off after 30 minutes. So I want to shorten it up. So I thought, well, I'm just going to take one of those time periods. And the one I chose is Genesis, naturally. He says that two things happen. One, God sends a prophet to begin prophesying about a time period. About a time period. And the second part of that is that God uses not usually the same prophet, but in most cases another prophet later on in that time period. Toward the end of that time period, that prophet rises up and applies that prophecy to the very time that he's living in. Okay? And he says that this catastrophe, this is going to happen now at this time. And it's fulfilled right now. Now, Orion read a couple of our scriptures this morning. Amos 3 verse 7 says, "Surely the Lord will do nothing, but he reveals his secret unto his servants, the prophets." So that goes along with what we're going to be talking about, is God doesn't reveal things except through his prophets, but the second part says, Deuteronomy 29:29, and it says, "The secret things belong to God." But the things that he's revealed belong to us and to our children, that we may do all the things, all the words of his law. Now, like I said, I'm just going to look at the first time period, and later we're going to look at how this also applies to the time we're living in right now. So even the first time period still also applies to us living in these last days. So this might be new to some people that have never heard this before. Others, you've forgotten this, or just haven't thought about it for a long time. Now, as we start, I want to point out two other things. That number one is that in the Bible, the remnant always refers to people who keep the commandments of God and have the spirit of prophecy. The second is that the remnant is always a small group. Okay? Now, the reason I say that is in Revelation 12, verse 17, it says the dragon was wroth with the woman who went to make war against the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the have the testimony of Jesus Christ. And in Revelation 19, verse 2, it says that the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So those are synonymous. As Seventh-day Adventists, we know that we have always identified ourselves as the people in Revelation that God talks about, those keeping the commandments of God and those who have the testimony of Jesus or the spirit of prophecy. Now the word remnant, I'm not a Hebrew scholar, and only got like one semester of Greek, so I'm not a scholar there. But I look these things up a lot of times in concordance or in Strong's concordance or other books. Sometimes I go to my son, Elijah, who actually knows more Greek than I do. So I kind of ask him sometimes, hey, does this work out, But the word remnant in Greek and in Hebrew refers to what's left over, okay, or what remains. In Isaiah, and to back these up, look these up, Isaiah 11:11 says, "It shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall set his hand a second time to recover the remnant of his people. In Isaiah 16:14, he says, it shall come to pass in that day, but the Lord shall set his, the glory of Moab shall be condemned with all that great multitude, and the remnant shall be very small and feeble. In Jeremiah 44, verse 28 says, yet a small number that escape the sword shall return out of the land of Egypt unto the land of Judah, and all the remnant of Judah. In the New Testament, Paul reinforces the idea that a remnant is a small group, a very small group. Isaiah in Romans 9, verses 27 through 29. He says, Isaiah also cries concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant shall be saved. For he shall finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, and shall short the and because of short work will the Lord make upon the earth. And as Isaiah said before, except the Lord of Sabaoth had left us a seed, we had been as Sodom and been like unto Gomorrah. So I said today we're going to focus on the first remnant, and the first Old Testament prophet, which applies the time period and the catastrophe coming to the world, was Noah. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 3, it says, And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Now, that is not a reference to how long individually people will live, because obviously Noah lived much longer, his sons lived much longer, and even 400 years after the flood, people lived much longer than 120 years. 400 years after the flood, Abraham lived to be 175 years old. So it's referring to something else. He says, I will destroy the earth. In Genesis 6, verses 5 and 6, he talks about the wickedness in the earth and how it has repented that he ever done this to create man. We can talk about that another time, but he says in verse 7, I will destroy man whom I have created in the earth. And so this reference, this 120 years, refers to the time period in 120 years destruction has come. And that's what Noah began prophesying. It is this generation of Noah that he preached this catastrophe that is going to happen. So to make things earlier, a little easier, and I'm going to go ahead and ask you, EJ, or Caleb, can help me. I created a chart. You know, as Adventists, we always watch the charts from evangelistic meetings where they have the head of gold and silver and brass and so forth. Mine's a little different, not quite as flashy as that, but I made this so everybody can kind of see. This is a chart. Try to get it out there. We'll try to. Starting with the time of the. Okay, should be okay. Yeah. And so this is a chart of that time. As a teacher for many years, I can't see everybody right now, but hopefully you can see the chart. As a teacher, I learned many years ago that the things that you see, as well as you hear, makes more impression in your mind. It helps you to understand, helps you to remember. And so what you see and what you hear is something you can understand. So I made this timeline. Took a little time. My wife kind of helped me a little bit with this. But it starts with Adam. Starts with Adam. I put it as the year of 0, and I go on. And basically I took what was in the Bible. It talks about each one, how long they lived, when they had a son. Now, it does not mention all the other sons and daughters, their dates. It says in all these people that are mentioned in Genesis, it says, and Adam had sons and daughters and so forth, but he died when he was 930 years old, and so forth. So this chart shows that. You can see from this chart that Adam lived 930 years. He saw his son Cain kill his other son, Abel. We don't know the year that happened. In fact, we don't know when any of his other sons or daughters lived or died. Only that this does is it kind of going in the genealogy, leading up what it does in the Bible, all the way to David and to Abraham, to David, to even to the New Testament, up to the time of Christ. And so that's what the Bible focuses on. These is the genealogy that ends up in Christ's genealogy. Okay, so we have Adam, we have Seth, we have Enos, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of see that as I'm talking about this. Adam lived 130 years when Seth was born, and he was the promised one, or the promised one promised in the genealogy leading to Christ. It says that Adam basically lived almost 1,000 years. Long enough to see all of his sons, all of his daughters, his sons, grandsons, and granddaughters, and his great-grandchildren, all the way down to the 9th generation. That is, all the way to Lamech. Now, Adam did not live long enough. I won't go through each one here, but a couple points. You can make your own points as you see this. Adam did not live long enough to see the birth of his grandson, Noah. He died before Noah was born. He was still alive when Lamech was born, the son, the father of Noah, but he had already died before Noah was born. He also did not live long enough to see Enoch translated to heaven. He did see him be born, but he did not see him translated. So he had not seen the realization that somebody's actually going to live after all this happens. He only saw death. And he only saw sin in his sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, great-grandchildren, and so forth. Now, we won't spend a lot of time on this, but if you want to read more about this time period in the book Prophets and Patriarchs and Prophets, chapter 6 and chapter 7 are particularly good. Chapter 6 is a chapter called Seth and Enoch, and chapter 7 talks about Noah and the flood. Two great chapters of that book. Now, here's the thing that always comes to my mind even before I became an Adventist, but particularly after I saw some of the artist renditions of what it must have been like in the time of the flood. When the rain fell, and that's why I wrote this book, Quest of Methuselah's Memoirs. When I wrote this book, was the thoughts I had in my mind was like, I always see these pictures of, there's about 20 people around, and they're flooding, they're trying to keep their dog paddling, or they're banging on the ark, let us in, let us in. And then in other pictures you see maybe another 10 or 20 people clinging to uprooted roots of trees and clinging to mountains and rocks and so forth, and they all perished. But I've always wondered how many people were alive at the time of the flood, but didn't make it to the ark. That was the idea for my book. Now, we can't really know for certain, but there have been a lot of people who've estimated the number of people who lived or perished at the time of the flood. Starting with one man and one woman in the time 0, and going all the way to 1,656 years, 1656, the year of the flood, mathematicians have estimated that we're anywhere from 750 million. No, not 20, 30 people clinging to rocks. 750 million people, or as many as 40 billion with a B, 40 billion people that were living at that time. Now, that's based on the longevity of their lives. It's based on the time that they were able to reproduce, procreate, and they come up with those things. Now, it varies, but they've also used a population rate. Currently, we have a population rate, by the way, of 0.012. It's 12 thousandths. Based on that, if we apply the same population rate that we currently have, there would have been about 750 million people at that time in the 1656 years. However, if it increased only 1,000, in other words, going up to 0.013 instead of 13, there would be about 40 billion people. So we're not going to be able to nail that down, but people who know more than me have studied this. There's a guy by the name of Henry Morris, no relation to me that I know of, by the way, but he's a theologian. He studied this, and he put all these factors in about the time that people lived and how long they lived and so forth. And others have used the Bible and what's called a MADCAD 7. MADCAD 7. I don't know how that works, but they believe the population was somewhere between 2 billion and 11 billion. So it's a little different than what you see when you see those artist renditions of people knocking on the door, let us in the ark, you know. Probably was a little bit different. Now, what they also do is they take into, the factors of how many children lived and died at those times. Now, there's really not, you can go from that, except that if you go back in history, back to the time of Christ, there was a Jewish historian by the name of Josephus. You've probably heard of it if you've done any research of that time, around Christ's time. Josephus wrote a book called Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, and in chapter 2, he says that Adam and Eve had a total of 55 children. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but he says 55 children. He says in the book of Antiquities of the Jews. 33 sons and 22 daughters. Now, that may have been just passed down word, handed word, mouth of word, you know, so on and so forth. He also says that Lamech, not the Lamech of the father of Noah, but Lamech in Genesis chapter 4, if you read Genesis chapter 4, this is the 6th generation from Adam through Cain. He had, 6th generation of him, he had a son named Lamech. If you remember, if you read this, Lamech came in one day and he said to his 2 wives, so polygamy was already alive at that time, thriving at that time. And he said, my wives, I have brought the curse of God upon me because I killed a young man. So, and on this particular Lamech that, again, Josephus talks about, Lamech, through 2 wives, had 77 children. But we know that there was a lot of killing, we know there was murder, we know there was crime, we know there was polygamy, because that's what the Bible says, at least at that time. But again, going back to what the Bible says, that we know for sure, is that after the flood, Noah had those 3 sons, and out of those 3 sons that we know of, they might have had more, but out of those 3 sons, we are recorded that they had 16 sons. That means they had an average of about 5 sons each. 5 sons each. Could have been more, but we know those 5. And guessing that they had an equal number of daughters, you know. So we're looking at, even after the flood, they had at least 10 or 11 children each, normally. Okay, now, most today, we don't have that longevity. We also don't have that long period of time when we can have a lot of children. Although some people still squeeze 10 or 12 children in there. You know, we do. But most of us nowadays is like 3 or 4, or maybe 1 or 2 or whatever. But even so, and there are others who have more children. Usually after 35 or 40 years, we don't have that many children. But you remember, after the flood, even after the flood, their time to procreate also shortened. 400 years after the flood, when Abraham and Sarah were there, Abraham was 100 years old. Sarah was 90 years old. And remember the story? She laughed when she heard that she might have children. She was 90 years old. And she said, I'm too old to have a child. I don't believe that. I don't believe I'm going to have a son. So now that maybe I've erased the picture for your mind, that it was just a small number of people that perished in the flood, I want to change gears just a little bit and imagine what the time was like in the time of the flood. And I want to ask my friends, Andy and Ryan, and are you going to do it, or is Ryan doing it?
You asked me to.
I did ask you. I don't know if are we going to? Okay. Yeah, Alex is going to be the heckler then. Okay. Thank you for being a heckler. That doesn't happen often. And Noah is. John is going to be Noah. All right. So as they're coming up here, Jesus said, "And the days of Noah were, so will be in the coming of the Son of Man. For as they were before the flood, carrying on their daily lives right up until the day that Noah entered into the ark." Now, I would like you to just close your eyes for just a minute and imagine, or you can sit there, you don't have to close your eyes, but imagine that you're seeing Noah's ark for the first time. You recognize it because even though you may not have seen it, you lived close by and you've heard about it. And now, as you see it, it's a gigantic ship resting in the valley. You can see a handful of individuals working around the ark. They're carrying objects up the ramp into the ark. And there's a few other dozen people who are standing around. They're not helping. They're not helping. But they're listening to Noah as he preaches. And they interrupt him with rude and mocking remarks.
Because the God of heaven has seen the great wickedness of this generation, he will destroy the world with a flood. The heavens will open, and water will fall from above, and the springs on earth will pour forth until even the highest mountains will be covered. But the Lord God is gracious and has provided a way to escape.
Yeah. Just pull all your livestock and my sheep. Now, if water does come from directions, come from the sky, I want you all to start paddling.
But Noah doesn't respond to their laughter, their scolding. Instead, his face reflects the pity of those assembled. He sadly continues with his words of pleading for them to avoid the coming destruction.
Look at the evil that is continually demonstrated by the hearts and actions of your fellow men. Every day we see or hear about crimes more horrifying in number, more brutal and vicious than the last. Things cannot continue as they are. That's why the Lord...
Stop talking, Noah. I'd rather hear about a murder anywhere than be bored to death by one of your endless sermons. I've been hearing you preach about a supposed flood for more than 100 years.
You're absolutely out of your mind, Noah. Your warning about a flood is ridiculous. None of us has ever seen water falling from the sky. Even if every man here today was to begin carrying barrels of water, 100 barrels of water a day, and we poured it on the ground near your ark, it wouldn't be enough to float your boat. It would just make our valley muddy.
Hey, do us a favor. All that ark out of here, you fruitcake.
Yeah, take it to the Hattle River and see if it floats. Better yet, just drown yourself.
Don't you see? Don't you see our Creator has provided a way to escape to flood and destruction that is coming upon the earth? Our Father in heaven can read the hearts of men. He knows that what lies within your heart, and He wants to change it and save you.
Do you think you and your family are so pure and holy and better than us? Your sons are no better than us. We've never killed anybody, and we don't steal. But you say that God will destroy us all if we don't take a trip in your boat. What a hypocrite.
No, he's no better than us. Noah's folly will sit here in the valley long after Noah's dead.
Okay, now you can open your eyes. Maybe you're thinking, thank you guys, by the way. Maybe you're thinking, oh, if I'd been there,
Sorry.
I would not be among those people. If I'd been there, I would not be heckling Noah. But I'm sure not everyone who lived there around Noah did not ridicule him. Some people were just caught up in their daily activities, and they just ignored him. Matthew 24, verses 37 through 39 says, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And they knew not until the flood came and took them away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." Just as it is today, everyone's not a skeptic or a heckler. Just like today, some people in those days, and these days also, just don't want to be bothered about the news, what's happening around them. Some people think that just like Peter, when he says in 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 through 7 rather, he says, "Know this, in the last days there will be scoffers, and those walking after their own lusts. They will say, 'Where's the promise of His coming?' Since everything is just going on the same as it has since creation of the world. But they are willingly ignorant of this. The world that existed then was overflowed with water, and they perished. But the heavens and the earth now is reserved for fire against the day of judgment for ungodly men." In the skit, we saw and heard that there was a small group, a remnant, a small group, carrying into the flood. They were working around the ark, and they were carrying things. They were preparing for the day of judgment. That may be the very first preppers, by the way. But preparing for the day of judgment that was coming upon that generation. There was a larger group that was not helping. In fact, they were heckling Noah. And anyone who was just standing by listening, they might have given some serious thought to what Noah was saying. Do you think it will be any different now, or think it will be any different the time just before Jesus returns? By the way, in this chart, I did use 1 inch equals 10 years. If you're wondering how I came up with that, 1 inch equals 10 years. At the beginning of the, for those on this side, you'll see there's a small chart here. On that side, you'll see the same thing I put on that side, where I divided it into 20, 40, 60, 80. I'm right here by the 60, between the blue and the purple. That's how short my life is compared to all of these antediluvians. And you can put your own in there, whether you're a teenager, or you're 20, or you're 40. My wife keeps looking at that one, by the way. She keeps looking at that one right there, because she's almost 40, so she looks at that. Half my life already. No, that's not necessarily true. But anyway, so I put those on so you can gauge it in your own mind what your life is like compared to those people who lived before the flood. If you're not seeing yourself small enough, listen to what God's Word says about life. You know, today we read part of this, I think, in Sabbath school, in Isaiah chapter 40, verses 6 to 8. The voice said, "Cry." And he said, "What shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the Spirit of the Lord bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of our God shall stand forever." A little bit farther in Isaiah, he says again, Isaiah 64, verse 6, Isaiah says, "But we are all as an unclean thing. All our righteousness are as filthy like rags. But we do fade as a leaf. Our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away." In Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14, Jesus said, "Enter in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many that go in there. But straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and few," there's that remnant again, "few will find it." And as I end this study, it may sound like things are pretty hopeless. We are all grass. Our righteousness is as filthy rags. But in Matthew, Jesus also says, "Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled." In Isaiah and in Jeremiah, we read in Jeremiah 29, verse 11, says, "For I know the thoughts that I have toward you, or that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you an expected end." Or another version says, to give you hope and a future. I'll share one more thing, and I think this is Jen shared with us in Sabbath school. And it struck me as she read this. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 2. "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with you." What a promise for Noah and all those people, those 8 people, that remnant. "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you." The second part is for us. "When thou walkest through the fire," we applied it there to the 3 worthies, the 3 Hebrew worthies, but also to us. Because when thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. So these are promises. The Bible is so many promises. Every single one of us probably has a relative, a loved one, a close friend, an acquaintance, who is just going through their daily lives, unaware that we are living in the very last days of Earth's history, that soon a catastrophe is coming, and very few are ready for it. It is my prayer that each of us will be ready for that great day, along with our loved ones. And I'd like to close. My wife is going to come up and sing for us a song that we were talking to the other day. She said, "You know, there's a song," and it's a song called "Still." And it's based on Psalms 46, which is a great psalm. But the particular one is Psalm 46, verse 10. It says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth." Lord, be with us now. Help us to do as Jesus has to do, to share, to invite others into the ark. Thank you, Lord, for hearing our prayer. Be with us as we leave this place. Help us. to have the right words to say to each person we meet. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.